Okay, so welcome back to Big Dan's Airguns review channel. Now, don't get me wrong, I know we had just done a spring gun with the Cometa 220 Compact, and great little gun it was. However, we had a chap who wanted us to advertise for him his used Weihrauch HW-57, and quite frankly, although we're maybe due a PCP next, there's no way that I could pass this up. So we had a chat with the chap who's got it listed on the website, and he was more than happy, as a true gentleman, to let us have a little play with it and see what we think of it. So here it is in front of us now. So as with all of our reviews, we're going to put the rifle through its paces, talk about the features, the handling, and then check the consistency and power through the chronograph, before then later on getting on to an accuracy test and then see what we really think. So it's an interesting gun, little HW-57, and possibly one of the more overlooked Weihrauchs out there. So we're going to get it on camera and see just what we think of it. So then, let's move on to features. Okay, so features. What do you get with your HW-57? Well, as you'd expect with most Weihrauchs, you have got a rather lovely finished rubber recoil pad. You have got your rather nice cheek piece here. It's more of a sporter style cheek piece, this. It's more of a low comb on there, as you can see. Not like some of the more target oriented guns, or even like the 97s, or my one in particular, where it's got that big raised cheek piece. This is more of a hunting gun, which I actually really approve of. It is more of a right-hand focused gun, the right-hand side of the stock, so for the lefties you're mainly just going to be putting your cheek on a flat slab, more or less, but to be fair, it still wouldn't put you off shooting the gun. As we move slightly further along, you have got the rather lovely record trigger unit, which I always say is pretty much, I think, the best trigger unit on a spring gun that's ever been fitted, but we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the handling section. And as we come slightly further up, you'll see the automatic safety button on the rear here. Another neat little feature, you can see the Dovetail Rails, and you can see the arrestor stops built into the rail itself, or into the action. This is a great idea, so if you're going to use, you can even pretty much, if you wanted to, get away with a single screw mount system, so two mounts but with only one screw holding it in. As long as it's got the arrestor pin, it'll rest inside those holes there, and that scope will not creep at all. It's always nice when the rifles have these. It's a genuinely nice feature on a recoiling gun. Slightly further along, you have the 57's rather unique pop-up breech system, or loading system, which we'll talk about a little bit more when we get to the handling section. And being a Weihrauch, you have got the usually pretty excellent Weihrauch barrel, and obviously she is an underlever as well, so you can see the underlever cocking mechanism there. What I will say, and again, a nice thing, you have got a lovely lump of metal on the front here for the front sight. For the rear sight, however, this should have it. The previous owner took it off because he mainly just wanted to use it as a hunting gun, and simply put, I believe he obviously thought that maybe with that on there and with the scope there with fairly low mounts, it might get in the way of the scope a little bit, so they have been removed, and sadly they don't come with this rifle. That being said, brand new guns and such, 57s, they do come with a full set of sights, so again, that's just a slight oddity with this gun. So overall, you get quite a bit for your buck, and it's basically what you'd want to see on your underlever spring gun. However, that's no good if the thing weighs 10 tons when you put it to your shoulder. So let's get the scales out and see how hefty she is. So she's on the scales and she comes out at 6.84 pounds. So it's a lovely lightweight little underlever gun. That being said, doesn't mean a great deal if it handles like an absolute pig despite the light weight. So let's chuck a little scope on there, put it to the shoulder, and see what we think. Okay, so handling with the HW-57, what do we think? Well, I'll put it this way, don't get me wrong, we have only got a fairly light scope on there. That is a 4x40. Bit of an oddity, it's a Fontaine, a bit like the, you might have noticed the HW-77 when we did the underlever shoot-off video. That had a Fontaine on there, and that was a lovely little bit of kit, and this is the same. This is a little odd though, because it's a 4x40 with an adjustable objective. Now, you don't usually see that with a 4x40, but here it is. First thing I'll say handling wise is, we knew it would be fairly light, but you wouldn't be doing this with many other underlevers out there. If I did that with my 97, I'd be, what? And I'd be off the chair. Overall, handling wise, it's a lovely little thing. What I would say though, is people might be watching this, and I think 57 owners will know where I'm going with this, and will be thinking, what a great junior gun that would be, or ladies gun or something like that. Not exactly. The reason for that is, for whatever reason, and I would never argue with the Germans, but they gave this gun a really long length of pull, if you can see that. In fact, I'll show you. I've got large hands, as you can see, with very long fingers. However, at the same time, with me, it's sort of a tiny little bit, even for me, struggle to get my finger comfortably on that trigger blade. You can see I'm sort of going across it instead of on it. I mean, I can put it on it if I do this, but then it's going to feel like I'm going to break my wrist if I do that for too long. It's just a little bit odd. I don't know why they went for that design choice. What would be excellent would be if you had a setback trigger coming back just about here. Maybe it did a little bit in front of that adjuster screw there. But again, you can use it. There's nothing wrong with that. I just don't fully understand why they went that route. What I will say though is things do pick up a little bit from here. When it comes to actually shouldering the gun, granted we have a lightweight scope on here, but you can hold that deadly still. It's a very well balanced little gun. In fact, you couldn't do this with a 97. If you can see here, bring it back just a tad, now forwards a tad, you can see it's pretty much dead on. It's coming back a tad there, but it's pretty much 50-50 weight distribution on that. Now, it might mean you get a little bit of muzzle flip with it, but when it comes to handling, it makes it a nice and neutral gun to walk about the fields with. The 97, you couldn't be doing that because it'd be going like this at this moment in time, but they've kept this very well balanced and very nice and light, which again, like we said, excellent little hunting gun. Now, there is one other little nitpick with this gun that I am going to choose, and again, 57 guys might be nodding and know what's coming again. The loading port did give Weihrauch a few issues with this little gun. Now, not all of them suffered with this, and I'm very glad to report this one doesn't either, because we have actually, the guy who's got this for sale on the website at the moment did let me have a little play with it when he fetched it down. And I can confirm, and a little spoiler warning, it is a really nice little gun to shoot. But the loading port actually gave issues, and I'll show you roughly what happened. So I'm going to cock the gun for you now, and to do that, you've got a little toggle on the front end of the underlever. Pull that back, and you'll see now, if you watch that little port there, she jumps up. What I will say, I really like that, simply because it's different. I've always loved things that are a little bit quirky. That's hence why I've got the, well, it's also because it's gorgeous in my opinion, but the Webley Eclipse with its unique sort of flip-up breech style loading system. It's just quirky, it's different, and I'll tell you something, although I'm about to pick on this design a little bit in a second, it's very safe as well. For instance, I'm not putting my hand right in the way of a piston under tension all the way back here. It's your hand's completely out of the action loading it, so it is incredibly safe. What I'm going to pick on it for, Weihrauch had a couple of issues with it, where every now and again they'd have a gun where the loading port wouldn't actually sit flush. Now, some guys said it is simply get rid of some of the grease and it will sit flush. Other people said you do need to make a couple of little modifications in there. It's a shame, because I think it is maybe what killed some of the love that could be out there for the 57, but it is something to maybe pay attention to if you're thinking of looking at one yourself. Like I said, I think most of them were fine. It was only a select few, but it is something that maybe marred the 57's reputation a little bit, and it is worth mentioning. Like I said, the Evans or Germans don't always get it right. Thankfully, from here onwards, they do get it right. Now, first things first, I know we pick on the Weihrauch safety for good reason, because they are a little bit funny for sometimes not engaging. This one, however, is 10 out of 10. You can see they're engaged absolutely when expected. The design I'm still not the biggest fan of, because you've got to switch it back on again, you've got to recock the thing all over again. Bit of a nuisance if you're hunting. It's not the end of the world, but it is what it is. What I am going to say about this though is it does come, as we said earlier, with the legendary record trigger. And the guys who are fuming because I attacked a Weihrauch a little bit just then are now nodding their head like, yep, here it comes. That is the best trigger unit, on a spring gun at least at this moment in time, on the planet. And I will fight anyone that says otherwise. I like the Cometa triggers, and we did some videos on those on the ultra short carbine showing how sweet you can make that. But even with that, I said it's still not a record. It's close, very close, but it's just not the same. I'll show you what we mean. So we'll whack that safety off. We will do the little finger test, even though we don't really have to. So put it in a safe direction. Watch this. So lovely and light, predictable first stage. If you can see that, I'll just get my palm out of the way just a tiny little bit for you. Safe and predictable first stage. Then second stage, a little bit extra pull. Off she goes. I'll tell you something else as well. Bearing in mind I wasn't really shouldering that properly then. Didn't that barely kick at all? Now, I don't know at this moment in time if this has had a tuning kit on it or not. I will have to have a chat with the chap selling it and see if anything's been fitted. But that, two things, very little kick, and on top of that, no twang, which is odd for Weihrauch. So let's give that another go. You can see that little loading port pop straight up. I do like the design. It is such a shame that these weren't quite, at least from what I've seen, as popular as some of the, say, the 77 and 97. I know the 77's got the legacy behind it, but this deserves so much more reputation. So switch that off, and again, little finger, second stage. Now watch for the kick. In fact, hang on, I'll get back a bit so you might be able to see the barrel a bit better. Watch the front end. There is very little there, and the thing that I'm happy to report is it's mainly just up and down movement, simple as. There's no nasty side to side wiggles like you can get with some of the cheaper guns and things like that. Well, I know how accurate this is because I'm cheating a little bit, as we may have said. I have already shot this gun. I know for a fact, and you get the feeling when you shoot it, it's going to be accurate because how tame it is. And again, you tell me. It's a little odd for Weihrauchs because they can be a little twangy. I know my 97 was, and even the HW-57 we have got a little bit of a bonk to it. You tell me if you hear any boing with this. So you can see the back of my head now, unfortunately. I say unfortunately, I think it's an improvement really compared to the front. Have a little listen to this. Almost nothing there, and we're sitting in the worst environment to bring out that twang too. Handling wise, yeah, I'm over the moon. I think that's an absolutely gorgeous little gun. Couple of little niggles with the design itself. Length of pull and the loading port can give a couple of issues depending on the gun, basically. But to be fair with you, with this one in particular, I'm pretty much in love with it. Yeah, what a great little hunting gun. But does it only kick a little bit because it's doing about 2 feet-pounds? Well, let's get the chronograph out and let's find out. Okay, so accuracy testing time. What pellets are we going to be using today? We always have some oddballs on the channel. We've got the Remington Tyrant Hammer 2.2 pellets there, and the Smk Spitfires. Now these are the new Spitfires with the more smooth skirt. They're very similar to a Superfield in a lot of aspects. You may laugh, but we actually had a very good result with these in 177 anyway, with our Smk Spitfires video. In fact, it was the best group at 40 yards. It even beat JSB Heavy with how good they were, with most of the group being roughly, I believe, the size of my little fingernail, with only one pellet going low. So, can lightning strike twice? Slightly further up, you can see our slightly more well-known pellets. You can see on the end here, we've got the Rifle Premium series. Then as we move along, we've got RWS Superdome, RWS Hobby, RWS Superpoint Extra, and Crossman Premier. Then we'll come up just a little bit more and you'll see the more what people probably say is the premier or creme de la creme of pellets. So we have got Arms Diablo Field, FX, and RWS Superfield. So we're going to see which one of these pellets groups the best off camera. Then after that we're going to do a group on camera showing just what the gun can actually do with the video rolling. And then we'll see what we can do after that. We might maybe put the target a bit further back or have a little bit of fun with it like what we did with our Cometa 220 video. So let's get the rifle rigged up and let's see what the gun can do. Okay, so that's our off-screen accuracy testing out of the way and done with. Couple of groups I'm going to mention that might just be a little bit interesting. The group number one, and I've had my eyes on these and I've been surprised by these for quite a while now. RWS Superpoint. Now that there is actually a part of a different group. We can disregard that. You can see the holes where the points have gone in because it's a very neat little hole in the centre. Then you've got that main cluster in between that. Those two flyers might have been me, to be fair, I don't know, but genuinely they performed incredibly well. In fact, I might even do a video review showing off different pointed pellets because I think from what I've seen of them, they're a very criminally underrated type of pellet. Moving on slightly further, on the other card we have, unfortunately, we did try obviously the Spitfires and they did not strike twice. We've got 3 pellets here. we've got another 2 here, and we've also got that other 2 there, all of which are Spitfires, and that's aiming at the bullseye, and they're just basically going all over the place. Next up we have, that is Arms Diablo. You can see they're a little bit all over the place, but not terrible. The ones that are the most interesting, however, is these here are RWS Superdome, and these have the most, let me see if I can pull that out of the way a little bit there. So you can see there's 2 shots just went slightly high. That's just where just where the card's torn. And you can see there's another cluster just down there. These have had the most pellets through it of all of the groups. And even though we've got 2 shots high, they're all more or less touching under a 5p piece. So we're definitely going to give them a go on camera. But the unstoppable pellet is FX. You can see the 5p piece there, and that is, I believe, a 4 or 5 shot group off memory. But you can see that there how tiny that is next to even a 5p piece. So what we're going to do, we're going to set this camera up at our 27-ish, we'll call it, yard range down there. Going to get the rifle set up, and we're going to try the FXs on camera and also the Superdomes and see who comes out on top. After this, we'll see if we can get something else rigged up and have a little bit more shooting with this gun. Because do you know what? I'm enjoying this gun so much. I don't care if this goes on an extra 10 minutes longer than what I wanted it to do, to go on for. But yeah, we'll have a bit of fun with it and see how she does. Okay then, so that's our 27-ish, we'll call it, yards accuracy test over and done with. How'd we get on? Well, the dear old Superdomes, I'm sure it's because of me, to be brutally honest, ended up falling apart a little bit on camera. I mean, that's not 20 pence at all, if I just hold that there. Yeah, she's a little bit all over the place. I mean, if it weren't for that flyer, it wouldn't be quite so bad if we just put the 5p piece underneath there. I mean, it's not too bad, but it's not exactly amazing. Now, what did end up shining was the FX, and if we put the 5p right there, you can see it's mainly a 20 pence group, but it's not too bad at all, is it? It almost covered up by the 5p piece. And again, that's obviously on camera. What we got off camera, unfortunately, was even better than on, but then that's pretty much, well, it's pretty typical for this review channel, isn't it? When the camera's on, it goes to pot. But what we're going to do now is, because why not, we're going to set the rifle up, as you know, back there. And what we're going to do is we're going to move that target all the way back there. So we're going to be doing some 40-yard shooting with the little HW-57, and we're going to see how we get on. No doubt I'm going to embarrass myself, but we will see. I've got faith in the 57, just probably doesn't have much faith in me. Let's see how we do. Okay, so the target is set up at our 40-yard mark. As you can see, we're going to be shooting all the way from back there. We're going to do things a little bit differently this time, a bit like what we did with our Cometa 220 video. Do you remember earlier when we said this would make probably a fantastic sort of lightweight hunting gun or something like that? Well, I tell you what, we're going to do this all in one take. We're going to keep it pointed at the camera so you can see no funny business, or the guy hiding around the corner with a Theoban Rapid. No, we're going to keep it all focused on the target. I'm going to try not to trip up and die as I'm walking backwards. There's a dip here somewhere. It's not just the one holding the camera. Where is it? But yeah, what we're going to do, we're going to have 5 shots in reasonably quick succession, because I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. And as we said, it could be a very good hunting gun. And when you're hunting, you can't always sit there and let your heart rate calm down. You got to take your shot when you can, as long as you're confident that you can make it. So what we're going to do, hopefully I didn't go off the target too much, trying not to trip up and die. So we're going to point that roughly at the target there. I'm just going to go get the gun. We're going to be using, as you know, the FX pellets, which let's just hope we can find some good ones, because when I was accuracy testing, there was quite a few of them. They were a little bit buggered up, to be honest. Right, so I'm going to park myself down here. Let's load the first one. Will we get lucky with this? There we go. Yep, good enough. Right, so we've just been for a walk. We've seen a rabbit. Let's try and get the chair lined up correctly. We've seen a rabbit, so we go to take the shot. How's that one? That one's good. That one went way high. Oh my God, there's got to be a good pellet here somewhere. He'll do. Fantastic pellets, but where their skirts are just so soft, they just get absolutely wrecked in the tin. That does. Don't mean to jinx it, but that's almost pellet on pellet. Let's do another one. Oh, that is pellet on pellet. Let's go. I'm happy now. We've got three. Whoa, my God. That is what I'm talking about. If you can see that, there is no way I'm firing that down range. Right. He's a little bit square. Surely we can do better than that. Nope. If we could get someone out there could have a chat with RWS and JSB. Skirt's a little bit nicked, but it's not too bad. RWS and JSB. So as you have JSB's sort of pellet efficiency, but RWS's uniform shape and solidity, we'd all be laughing. And make them charge Spitfire money. Perfect. Oh, that one was off. But I tell you what, let's go take a look. Right, so just going to unhinge the underlever so she's safe. You're coming with me, buddy. Let's go. Let's plonk that down there. Let's go take a look how we've done. Right, now, I know two of them went a little bit skew-if, but again, we didn't really give ourselves much time after a 40-yard walk back to the bench, to really let ourselves calm down. So, let's have a look. Most of the time, to be fair, was sieving through bloody pellets. Let's see how we did. I'll take that. So, we got 3 there, and just 2 that went a little bit wayward. Do you know what? Obviously we've got 2 that are well off, but I'm pretty damn happy with that for a Springer, and we're not even properly, well, we're using a proper rest, we're just using a backpack. And on top of that, you've literally just watched me walk back to, back 40 yards, shoot, and then walk back to the target in, at this moment in time, 5 minutes and 18 seconds. Do you know what? That'll do. That'll do, donkey. That'll do. Right, so that's accuracy testing out of the way with the HW-57. Let's move on to the final verdict. So then, the final verdict. What do we think of the HW-57? Do we like it? Do we not like it? Frankly, I think it's just German rubbish, to be brutally honest with you. I mean, the trigger's naff, clearly. The accuracy's no good. It's ugly. The loading system is stupid. And if you believe all that, you'll believe anything. It's a fantastic little gun. It seriously is. As we always say, we get the negatives out the way before we start absolutely kissing this rifle's rectum. So what we're going to say is negatives. The length of pull is too long. Not terribly long, but it is a bit too long for what it should be. That trigger should definitely be set back a little bit. There may be kits out there that allow you to do that, or different blades. I've not done much research on that. I'm not a Weihrauch stockist at this moment in time, unfortunately, but the length of pull is a bit long. You can work around it. I shot it with no problems at all, but bear in mind, you might look at it and think, what a great, say,
beginners, underlever and such, make sure that it actually fits them properly first, because they might be stretching a little bit too much to get to that trigger blade. The other thing I will mention is, as we may have already said, there were a few issues regarding the loading system on this gun. Most of it, from what I've looked into, it was mainly a grease issue, I believe. Some of the manufacturer grease, there was maybe a bit too much on there, and it needed just wiping down and just reapplying a dear little bit in there just to make it function properly. This one clearly doesn't have that problem, as we'll see in a second. And on top of that, I mean, I think it was only pretty much the 3% of these guns that had that problem. It's such a shame that these guns, to be honest, haven't picked up the way, in my opinion, they should have done. I would genuinely, see, I'm kissing ass already, aren't I? It's a Springer thing, I'm sorry, I can't help it. I own a 97. I love my 97. It was my 21st birthday present. I've hunted with it, I've shot with it, targets, you name it, everything. I would take this hunting over my beloved 97 and my Webley Eclipse even. And the Eclipse isn't even a heavy gun. And the reason for that is, I know we've taken the mick a little bit with the length of pull, but the dimensions and the handling of this little gun, and it's an underlever, so it should be a nose heavy beast, is absolutely spot on. I mean, the power on it is, which obviously is helping the recoil. You don't need max power all the time, and this rifle proves it. It's not a full power gun 100%. I'd say it's a high power gun for the UK. It's 10.5 feet-pounds average. We'll just have another little look, if you can see that there. It's averaging around 10.5, 10.6 feet-pound, which for hunting and such, out to 30, 40 yards, there's no problem with that at all. In fact, to be fair, most of my hunting, I rarely shoot 40 yards at all. Up to 30, I'd say, is my maximum. This is the perfect little gun to take stalking with, what have you, walked up style shooting. It's light, it's pointable. The trigger on it, like I said, we was joking earlier, it's a record trigger unit, so you know it's going to be pretty much a 10 out of 10 job straight out the box. It's just a fantastic little gun, and I do feel kind of sorry for it, like I've already said, that it didn't take off maybe the way that it deserved to do. I don't know if they still make the 57 or not, but if they don't, Weihrauch, if you're watching this, please give it another go, because it deserves another time in the limelight. Just refine the action that little bit more. Accuracy-wise, definitely no complaints from me. So, off camera, this is the FX group that we managed to get. And you can see there's a 5p piece next to it, and it's pretty much completely engulfed by the 5p piece. On camera, it wasn't quite so great. We had, that's RWS on the left, the Super Domes. Super Domes were a little bit all over the place. To be fair, off camera they were far better, so that could have been me maybe pulling it. I believe off memory these were the first groups we did, so the heart rate might have been beating a little bit more than what it was with the FXs here. But here you can see, even on camera, it's almost a 5p group. Now, here's where things get really good. Now, you know for a fact that the heart rate was definitely still pounding when we did the 40-yard group that you can see here, because I brought you guys and girls along with for the ride with me. And as you can see, the main 3 shots, let me just move that up a tad, the main 3 shots sit easily under that 5p piece. We've got 2 wayward shots just up there. Again, I'm willing to bet that's me, 100%. I'm not a perfect shot. Plenty of people have seen me shoot will back up that claim that I'm not a perfect shot, but I am definitely impressed with that. If I was giving myself a little bit more time, like I say, maybe pick some slightly better pellets. You might have heard me complain. I think I might have shown you on camera how some of the skirts were. I am confident that would have probably all been in at least a 20p piece on there. Those 2, I will admit, that was probably me. I really like the little gun. I'm genuinely very smitten with it. It's a bit of an underdog story. No one really talks about the 57 compared to the 77 or 97. I think because, like I said, maybe there's been a couple of niggles with it, or it might simply be because, I don't know, they're just a very good gun, the 97 and 77. But genuinely, these deserve your attention. If you can find one, this one is for sale. This one's on the website. Thank you ever so much also, Brian, for giving me the opportunity to review this gun. This gun is for sale on the website. Brian's only asking £230 for it, and he is willing to put in the Fontaine scope that you saw earlier, which is a fantastic bit of kit. The Fontaines, people who have owned them will probably confirm that. The field of view on that is unbelievable. It's only a 4x40, but it's genuinely, it's a mega clear bit of kit. The only reason we changed it to the Conus was because the reticle was just that little bit finer on the Conus. Other than that, for a hunting scope, if you're shooting rabbit size, head size targets, the Fontaine will be absolutely 10 out of 10, and it's a nice little bit of history, that scope as well, and it genuinely fits the gun lovely. With the scope, he's looking for £255. Honestly, buy it. If you don't, I will. I'll put it that way. You've seen what the gun can do. There is no excuses for it at all. I'm just kidding, obviously. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to, what was it, Donald Trump? Art of the deal, yeah. The art of the deal. Sorry, I'll stop. Yeah, it's a fantastic little gun. And Brian, like I've already said, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to do this. We did rush the review a bit as well. As you can see, we've done it all in one day. We are losing light now, so I'll wrap it up now. Thank you, everyone, I should say, for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Apologies if it's a little rough around the edges compared to some. We were on a bit of a time limit, I'm afraid. But hopefully we got all the points nailed down. So thanks ever so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.